Hey, today's Bible study comes from Mark chapter 16, and we'll read verses 1 through 8, and then the next study session will cover 9 through 20, which the earlier manuscripts and some other ancient witnesses do not have, verses 9 through 20. So let's do 1 through 16, and it reads as follows. When the Sabbath day was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James, and Salome bought spices so that they might go to anoint Jesus' body. Very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb, and they asked each other, "Who will roll the stone away from the entrance of the tomb?" But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. "Don't be alarmed," he said. "You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth, the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him? But go, tell his disciples and Peter, he is going ahead of you into Galilee. Then you will see him, just as he told you." Trembling, bewildered, the women went out and fled from the tomb. They said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. Well, when the Sabbath was over, meaning the Sabbath day, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome all bought these spices so they could anoint Jesus' body that was in the tomb. They were going to keep prepping him for his death. They were going to anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, so this was early morning, they were on their way to the tomb, and they asked each other. There was going to be a conflict because you remember there was this big stone that was rolled in front of the tomb, and none of them were strong enough to move it. So, of course, they're going to ask the question, who will roll the stone away from the entrance to the tomb? But when they looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, it had been moved. The stone was no longer covering the entrance. And this holds some significant value because it couldn't hold Jesus down. Even this physically, naturally encompassing heavy stone, this natural, could not hold Jesus down. So not even the natural ceiling of Jesus could hold him down. He had already defeated death, so the spiritual couldn't do it, and the natural couldn't do it. So they got to wondering. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe sitting on the right side. Now, the significance to this, again, if you look into it, he's sitting on the right side, the sheep. He was sitting on the right side, and he was in a white robe. And it tells you one angel, two angels, but he was sitting there in a white robe, and they were alarmed. And you would be alarmed, like, what is he doing here? Why is he sitting in here? And he was sitting in there to give them a message. He was sitting there to testify about what Jesus has said, and he was sitting there to tell them about the prophecy being fulfilled, as you'll see. He says, "Don't be alarmed," he said. He says, "I know what you're in here for. You're looking for Jesus the Nazarene who was crucified." He knows what happened to him. He was crucified, and he knew who they were looking for. But he said, "He is risen." In other words, when he told you, "I will tear a temple down in 3 days, it will be rebuilt," he has risen. When he told you he will rise again, he has risen. When he told you about his 3 deaths, when he told you 3 times about his death, and he says on the third day, he has risen. So he was there to testify to that. And what does he say? He is not here. He ain't here, man. He ain't here, y'all. See the place where they laid him? Look, this is where they laid him at. You can see where they laid him at. You are aware that he was physically placed in here behind this huge stone. Matter of fact, you were contemplating how to move it on your way here, and you can see where he was at, and he's not there. So what does he tell them? But go, tell the disciples and Peter. He specifically says Peter. Why? Foundation of the church. Tell Peter. He is going ahead of you into Galilee. Uh-oh, where is he going? He's going to where he told you he would be, in the Galilee. And what's the man say? There you will see him. And then he goes back and tells you, just as he told you. So what he told you is true now as it was when he said it. When he prophesied about his death, it was true. When he prophesied about him being resurrected, it is true. When he prophesies about you meeting him in Galilee, it is true. And what I'm telling you is he is going ahead of you into Galilee as he stated. And there you will see him, just like he told you. Now they were trembling and bewildered, nervous. The women went out and fled. See, when you flee from a situation, it's not like you just walk away. You was moving. They was moving. They fled from the tomb. They took off. And they said nothing to anyone because they were afraid. But there was no reason to be afraid. These things had already been stated to all. We got to believe. Got to have some faith. Amen.